What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with the launch of Season 5 Reloaded, we got the Combat Bow Scorestreak in Black Ops 6, and in today's video, I wanted to dive deep and share all of the important details when it comes to this, and on top of this, I thought I would just squeeze in the boxing gloves as well. I didn't want to make a dedicated video on another melee weapon, but I will quickly cover the stats for the boxing gloves toward the end of the video, for those of you guys that are interested in, since I've had a few people asking about it at least. But first up, let's start this off with the Combat Bow Scorestreak. This one is quite a low-end score streak for this game at just 500 score to earn, so it's actually easier to earn this than a UAV. And with this, it's obviously a handheld streak, so it behaves like the other handheld streaks in the game, like the hand cannon for instance, in that it will contribute toward a nuke streak and your bloodthirsty medals, and merciless and all the other medals like that. Additionally, the moment you fire a shot with this, if you get killed and respawn, you will lose that streak. You won't be able to continue where you left off. However, if you die before firing a shot, you'll still have that streak when you respawn. And with this, you spawn in with 5 arrows, and they say it's an explosive tip arrow, and while there is technically a small explosion that we'll look at in just a little bit, it does behave more like a thermite tipped arrow that we've seen in some previous Call of Duty games, because it will leave a lingering flame that deals an area of effect damage. Now with this, just like combat bows we've seen in the past in Call of Duty, you can fire this very quickly if you just tap the fire button. You'll be able to get that arrow off in roughly 75 milliseconds, but this is your minimum draw time, and with that, you're going to have a very low velocity on that arrow, so there's going to be a whole lot of drop if you're trying to stretch your range out, and also a very slow travel time. So if you're trying to fire at a moving target, it's a lot less likely you're going to hit that moving target if you just tap fire this. So the alternative is to hold down the trigger or the fire button for a little bit, and you can get into a full draw in about 1 second. And this will not only improve your hipfire accuracy with this, you can see your hipfire cone does tighten up. It also massively increases the arrow velocity, therefore meaning you don't have to account for any arrow drop or travel time nearly as much compared to just tap firing this. Now, it's also worth noting you can aim down sight with this, but I find the sight on it to be very obstructive, and I just find that I'm more accurate with just hip firing when in a full draw, so I make sure I tighten up that accuracy. However, it is worth noting, even when tightening up fully, it doesn't appear to be perfectly accurate at that point, so there's still a chance you will miss a perfectly placed shot when doing that. Even with that in mind though, I still prefer doing that over aiming down sight. And now let's get into the various forms of damage this can deal, and we'll start this off with the initial splash damage. So this is that initial explosion that takes place when the arrow hits, and with this we get a splash damage radius of 2.5 meters. So you do have to hit fairly close to your target to deal damage with this. And if they're not using Flak Jacket, you're going to be dealing roughly 70 damage to them. So you're going to get them very hurt, but it won't be a one-hit kill unless it's a direct impact. And again, that's even against non-Flak Jacket users. And then against somebody that is using Flak Jacket, you're only dealing about 40 damage to those people if you're shooting the arrow right between their legs, for instance, but not a direct impact. Although it is worth noting, even if they've got Flak Jacket, if it's a direct impact, it will be killing them no matter what. Now, of course, that's just the initial damage when the arrow first explodes. After that, there's a lingering area of effect damage that will take place. And with this, it only has a damage radius of 2 meters, so you actually lose that half-meter range. And it will deal damage in ticks. And based on my hand testing here, it seems like it deals damage every 250 milliseconds, and it lasts for about 8.5 seconds total before it just fades away entirely. And when it comes to this area of effect damage, if the enemy doesn't have Flak Jacket, you're going to be dealing roughly 17 damage, meaning if you shoot the arrow right between their legs, you deal 70 damage up front and then 17 per tick, meaning you'll kill them in 2 additional ticks after that initial hit. And that is a very fast time to kill. There's very little time for them to react to that and get out of the way unless they were already in the process of moving. So there's still a pretty good chance you'll kill a non-Flak Jacket user just by shooting the arrow at their feet. Whereas against a Flak Jacket user, it appears you're dealing about 12 damage per tick, meaning they've got a lot more time to react to that and get out of the way, because you're only dealing 40 damage up front, and then it's going to take you 5 ticks of damage after that in order to finish off the kill. And that means they have over a second to react and get out of the way. And there we go, that's going to wrap it up for the detailed stats on the Combat Bow. Overall, I wasn't surprised at all to see they added this to the game. If I had to guess, Season 6 is likely going to be the flamethrower, because all of these post-launch streaks we've been getting are these handheld streaks that we have seen before in Call of Duty, and I think the only one left that we haven't seen before is going to be the Purifier or flamethrower. So So I think it's a pretty safe bet we'll be seeing that one. When it comes to the bow in particular, I think it's interesting because it is such a low streak. It's nice to see a low-end streak added to the game, since most of the streaks they've been adding have been more like mid to upper tier streaks, and therefore for many people, they're just not really all that attainable. And the bow is quite attainable, and I think balanced reasonably well considering how easy it is to earn this. I would definitely take a hand cannon over the bow any day, since there's no like pre-fire delay or anything. You don't have to draw the arrow to get maximum bullet velocity. You're also only getting 5 arrows out of this. And honestly, it's really not all that powerful to use the combat bow in my opinion, but that's how it should be if it's going to be a lower end streak that's easier to earn than a UAV. And now that we have that out of the way, let's cover the boxing gloves, which have been in the game for a little bit at this point. This is a melee weapon you can use. And this shouldn't come as a surprise at all that the boxing gloves are a 2-hit kill melee weapon rather than a 1-hit kill melee weapon. And with this for your standard attack, we have a pre-hit delay of 250 milliseconds, which is standard. And our time between 2 hits is just 450 milliseconds, which is great for this game. It's actually the second fastest in the game at getting those 2 hits off, just behind the Kali sticks. However, unlike the Kali sticks, we have a much better range at 2.1 meters. So there are some clear benefits there versus something like the Kali sticks. But at the end of the day, with it being a 2-hit kill melee weapon in core game modes, I still don't consider this to be all that effective, because even though 450 milliseconds is fast for a melee weapon, that's still a painfully slow time to kill in this game, and most people would have the time to kill you multiple times over before you're able to kill them with 2 hits. So it's really not all that great when it comes to the standard attack. However, we do have our power attack or heavy attack, whatever you want to call it, our charged attack that most of the melee weapons have. And this is the one where it takes a little bit longer to engage with the enemy, but once you do, it locks you and them into an animation so they can't fight back while that's going on, which is a nice benefit over the standard attack. However, it still leaves you vulnerable to their teammates killing you in this animation. And with this, with the boxing gloves, our charge time is actually quite slow at 400 milliseconds. And our time to kill, if we are already pre-charged, is pretty standard. But if you combine those and you factor in the charge plus the time to kill, we're really not killing all that fast with a charged attack with these boxing gloves. And the other stats, like our lunge range and our maximum hit angle, are really nothing special when it comes to a charged attack. And as a result, the charge attack on this, I would say, is not particularly powerful or useful. And as I said, the standard attack is also not great with the boxing gloves. And I've just got to say, overall, at least when it comes to core game modes where this is a 2-hit kill, the boxing gloves are pretty awful. You're going to be better off with a 1-hit kill melee weapon 9 times out of 10. Of course, if you are wanting to go melee only in something like hardcore, sure, you might want to go with the boxing gloves. But outside of that, I really see no good reason to use the boxing gloves in this game. One last thing to mention though, of course, is our mobility, which unsurprisingly, they haven't changed their philosophy here. It's exactly the same as all of the other melee weapons. And there we go. That's pretty much it. That's going to wrap it up for today's breakdown of the combat bow and the boxing gloves in Black Ops 6. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how are you guys feeling about that combat bow, especially with it being fairly easy to earn relative to many of the other lethal streaks in the game? Do you guys think that's balanced appropriately, or maybe not so much? You guys think it's too weak, too powerful versus the score it takes to earn? And second, how are you feeling about the boxing gloves in this game? Do you guys agree with me? Do you think they're pretty bad? Or am I maybe missing something? Is there something about the boxing gloves that you really enjoy? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.